Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a classic tale that reaches for the sky. Quite literally, it's a story of a boy, a cow, and some very, very special beans. Let's get into the magical world of Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, in a little cottage, lived a young boy named Jack with his widowed mother. They weren't rich, and in fact, their only real possession was a single cow. But one sad morning, their beloved cows stopped giving milk. With a heavy heart, Jack's mother told him, "Jack, we have no choice. You must take the cow to the market and sell her." So, Jack set off, leading the cow down the dusty road. He hadn't gone far when he met a peculiar-looking old man with a twinkle in his eye. The man looked at the cow and then back at Jack. "That's a fine cow, young man," he said, "but I have something far more valuable to offer you in exchange." He opened his hand to reveal 5 strange, colorful beans. "These," he whispered, "are magic beans." Jack, being a curious and hopeful boy, was completely captivated. Magic beans. The possibilities seemed endless. He forgot all about the money they needed and agreed to the trade. He swapped the cow for the 5 little beans and raced home, excited to show his mother their newfound fortune. But when he burst through the door and presented the beans, his mother's face fell. "Beans," she cried, her voice filled with despair and anger. "You traded our only cow for a handful of worthless beans." In her fury, she snatched the beans from Jack's hand and tossed them right out the window into the garden. With no money and no food, she sent a heartbroken Jack to bed without any supper. Jack went to his room, his stomach rumbling and his heart heavy with regret. He drifted off to sleep, thinking he had made a terrible mistake. But overnight, something truly incredible began to happen. Where the beans had landed, a tiny sprout pushed through the soil. It grew and grew and grew, twisting and climbing higher and higher. When Jack woke up the next morning, he couldn't believe his eyes. Outside his window stood a colossal beanstalk, its thick, green stalk reaching up past the clouds and disappearing into the sky. The old man was right. They were magic beans after all. A surge of adventure filled Jack's spirit. He knew what he had to do. Without a second thought, he started to climb. He climbed for what felt like hours, up through the fluffy white clouds, until he finally reached the top. There, in a land above the sky, stood a massive, imposing castle. The gate was so huge he could walk right underneath it. Cautiously, he tiptoed inside. The furniture was gigantic, as if made for a mountain. And there, on a grand table, he saw 2 amazing sights, a beautiful white goose and a stunningly ornate golden harp. Suddenly, the floor began to shake with heavy footsteps. Thump, thump, thump. A giant, larger than anything Jack had ever imagined, stomped into the room. He sniffed the air and bellowed in a voice that rattled the very walls. "Fee-fee-fo-fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive, or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." Jack dove behind a huge flour sack, his heart pounding in his chest. He watched in terror as the giant sat down at his table. The giant commanded the goose, "Lay." And to Jack's astonishment, the goose laid a perfect, solid gold egg. Then, the giant turned to the harp and said, "Sing," and the harp began to play a beautiful, enchanting melody all by itself. Soon, the music lulled the fearsome giant to sleep, and his snores echoed like thunder through the castle. This was his chance. Jack crept out from his hiding spot. He knew these treasures could solve all his and his mother's problems. As quietly as he could, he snatched the goose that laid the golden eggs and grabbed the magical harp. But as he turned to leave, the harp cried out, "Master, master!" The giant's eyes shot open. With a furious roar, he leaped to his feet and saw Jack running away with his treasures. "Thief!" he bellowed, and the chase was on. Jack scrambled out of the castle and back to the beanstalk, with the giant's thunderous footsteps right behind him. He slid down the stalk as fast as he could, the goose tucked under one arm and the harp under the other. As he neared the bottom, he shouted down to his mother, who was waiting anxiously in the garden below. "Mother, bring me the axe. Hurry! His mother, seeing the terrifying giant descending behind him, quickly brought the axe. The moment Jack's feet touched the ground, he took the axe and began to chop at the base of the giant beanstalk with all his might. Chop, chop, chop. With one final, mighty swing, the beanstalk cracked and began to topple. The giant, who was still climbing down, let out a final, terrible roar as he came crashing down to the earth with the beanstalk, and was never seen or heard from again. From that day forward, thanks to the goose that laid a golden egg every day and the harp that filled their home with beautiful music, Jack and his mother lived in comfort and happiness. They never went hungry or worried about money again, all thanks to a handful of magic beans and a boy's brave adventure. And that's the tale of Jack and the Beanstalk. What a ride, right? It just goes to show that sometimes the biggest risks can lead to the greatest rewards. Thanks so much for watching with me today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you in the next video.